Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to recap all the games that I played in February of 2024, and it was a big increase over what I was able to get to the table in January. So if you're curious to see what I was able to play, stay tuned. So as you can see, in January it was a really busy month, finishing out basketball season and starting a college class that I'm teaching. And so I only got a few gameplays in 15, which, as you can see, kind of from my history, there's a pretty low number. But February was back to normal. I had the end of basketball season, and we had a little break, a winter break there from school. And so I got quite a few games played, 33 gameplays in, and we're going to look at them. With that many more, I'm going to try to speak a little bit less on each game just so I can get through them and make this video not too incredibly long. But I did play a lot of new games, and so we'll walk through this. I'll talk to you about kind of in reverse order from least played to most played, and reference whether it was a new game to me, and give you a little bit of thought about how much I enjoyed it, and talk just briefly about especially the ones that were new to me or the ones that I haven't played in quite some time. So the first one up, we'll start here at the bottom, Wildlife Safari. And actually, I have a different version of it. I have the Botswana version. It's a Reiner Knizia game, and this one was put out by, what is this producer? Griffin Games. So you can see the picture on BGG looks a little bit different here, but I have the one that's got the little plastic animals. So yeah, they're pretty cool, little plastic toy animals. So I was really glad I found this one at Strategicon at one of the flea market tables. And it's a really simple game. We're looking forward to taking it in April up to Seattle and playing with our kids and grandkids. You play cards in by suit, basically, according to the different types of animal. But every turn you just play a card and take an animal. And then once one of the animals has all 6 cards represented, the game ends, and then whatever the top card is in the cards that were played is the number of points that each of those animals is worth. So you're kind of trying to figure out how you can manipulate that market, so to speak. A really simple game, but I love the little toy aspect of it. And so that was a lot of fun playing Botswana, or my version, Botswana. Wildlife Safari is what it's called in I think the more modern prints. I also played Ticket to Ride Europe and the 15th anniversary edition, and I do have that in the physical copy, although this month I actually did play Ticket to Ride Europe in the BGG. Let's see, I forget if it was BGG or if it was on Steam. It was on Steam, so yeah, enjoyed playing that one again. I haven't got the physical one to the table in quite a while just because it takes a little bit longer, and sometimes I don't have anyone that's able to play, so I just get a quick game in online because I still enjoy this game even after all these years. A good classic. All right, next up is Stone Age, and I don't own Stone Age, but Stone Age here is by Bernd Brunhofer, and it's a Hans im Glück game. And let's see, I played this one just once this time. It was on BGA. I have played the physical version and the BGA version, and now I know it's on Steam. I do remember at times people talking about how this cup, if you have the leather cup, it really smells bad. I don't own a copy, so I don't know if that's true, but it's a worker placement game, one of the kind of classic worker placement games, and I am pretty bad at this game. I learned it at the World Series of Board Gaming 2 years ago, and just I wanted to play in one of those outer ring contests, and so I played 2 times real quick, and then got into the tournament, got smoked, and then I think I played it one more time physically, and then a few times on BGA since then, and I just cannot seem to get all the strategies together for this one. Even though it's a simple game to learn how to play, I just haven't figured out how to score well on this one. I don't think I do well enough in purchasing those cards and getting the sets. But it's a fun game. It's like I said, a pretty simple, one of the kind of standard basics for worker placement. Next, played Sky Team, another one that I don't own, although I have played a physical version, and this time it was a physical version. So I played a few times on BGA first, but I borrowed a friend's copy. And this is one that my wife and I played a couple times with the physical version, and we both really enjoyed it. It's a cooperative game. You're rolling the dice, and then you're having to put them in this sequence. So in the games we played, I think I was blue and she was orange. And so you're playing your dice one at a time, alternating back and forth, and only the blue can play on the blue spots, and only the orange can play on the orange spots. And you have to play these 4 spots every round, and then the other ones you kind of play as needed. Some you have to play sequentially, some you don't have to play sequentially. You're trying to keep, the level of your plane balanced when you come in for a landing, and then you got these little other planes up here that you can see. They're kind of in the way along as you're approaching. And it's just a lot of fun. We both had a good time with it. And I didn't buy it. It wasn't for sale. It was a friend's copy. But I haven't bought it yet. I don't know how often we would play it, but we both did really enjoy it. It's by Luc Raymond from Scorpion Mask. And yeah, fun game. I would always be happy to play it. If I found a really good deal on it, I might pick it up because I do think my wife and I would play it occasionally. But we just have so many games that we like to play. I don't know how often it would be. But it was a really enjoyable one. Romy, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Antoine Lefebvre, and it's Randolph Games. And I played this one originally with the actual physical card game, and then right now I'm actually playing it again on VGA. And I think actually for this game, I feel kind of like it's the same. I don't prefer it one way or the other so far. I enjoy the game. It's not, again, one that I'll probably go out and purchase. It's, very much a rummy style game. You have this market of cards. See if there's not too many pictures here. See if I can find one that you're trying to get sets and runs, basically, like you can see here, a run of 5. But there's a market of cards to choose from, and you can pick 1 to 3 cards, and they either have to all be the same number or they have to all be the same suit. Hey, here we go. Now here's a picture where we can see the market. So you've got these goals up here. Like this one, I need a set of 3 and a run of 3, and if they have clubs in them, these 4-leaf clovers, then are they 4-leaf? I can't tell. They're going to be more valuable. And so you're scoring a few different ways. You're trying to achieve these goals. There's also game-wide goals, which are over here on the side. We can't see in this picture. It's a pretty simple game. You just draw cards, and if you can, you take a contract, and you're trying to take contracts that match the suits of the cards that you have in hand when able. And you're also trying to have the most of these goals over here on the side. I don't know if there's another picture that would show that better. But each round, yeah, here they are, these little crown goals. So like end game, whoever has the most of the clubs and whoever has the most of the sets of 3 or whatever. And so really it's a pretty simple game, easy to learn, and a fun game. So yeah, I enjoyed it the 2 times that I played, both the physical copy and on VGA, and would recommend it. But again, I just don't tend to really love card games that much. So, and I have quite a few that I enjoy better than this personally. So I don't think I would go out and buy a copy, but I can see how a lot of people, especially if they like Rummy, probably would want to have this in their collection. Planet Unknown, this is one of my favorite games, and rank it very high, as you can see there. And this is one that I backed on Kickstarter originally and waiting for the Supermoon expansion and a couple little special features to kind of boost up this original as well. I think there's a cover for the Lazy Susan, and it's just a really fun polyomino game where you are both building out your polyominoes. Let's see if we can get some pictures here. I'm sure we'll be able to. Oh, this person's done some painting on theirs. But you've got this world where you're laying out these polyominoes, and there's these meteorites, and you're trying to get the meteorites off the board, because if they're in the rows or columns and those rows and columns don't score, and you're trying to score as many rows and columns as you can by completing them. Let's see, we've got a lot of covers here. There we go. Now we can see some people playing. Get this nice Lazy Susan that all the tiles fit into. You got these rovers that are moving around, but every time you play a tile, you also move up these tracks. And so there's bonuses as you go up these tracks, kind of Gong Shang Clever style if you've played that game. And there's just a ton of replayability in this one if you have the Kickstarter version especially, because you can all play the same planet, or there's like a dozen different planets if you want. There's also a bunch of these corporation boards that came with the Kickstarter version that you can use. They're double-sided, and so you can flip and make that asymmetric as well. And it's really simple. You're all playing at the same time, so you got the synchronous play. Everyone's playing at the same time. They choose the tiles and putting it down. Then the next person's in charge, and they choose which row or which column in that Lazy Susan that you're choosing your tiles from. Just really terrific game. I love polyomino games, and I like the combination of the polyominoes plus the tracks in this one. So I'm always up for a game of Planet Unknown, and yeah, looking forward to getting that Supermoon expansion, hopefully reasonably soon. Next up, On Mars. And On Mars is a game, I have just the expansion one here close by that I grabbed. I have the original game, but it's out in the other room, so I just grabbed this one real quick. On Mars is by Vital Lacerda. It's art by Ian O'Toole, and it's an Eagle Griffin game. And I just love On Mars. I've only played it a few times, just played it once in February. But actually, as I reread the rules recently, because I've been taught the game, and it was well taught. But the most recent time after we played, I went ahead and read the rules again myself. And as I read the rules again myself this time around, I was just recognizing how much more thematic it was than I was giving it credit for. And the components are terrific. And I obviously picked up on the theme playing it before, but there were just so many little details how the theme could be explained, and I just never quite picked up on that before until I read it for myself. And so really love this game. It is beautiful. My wife's actually, it's a pretty heavy game, and she doesn't tend to enjoy heavy games as much, but she's pretty interested in trying this as I was explaining the theme to her and just talking to her about the gameplay. She's pretty keen for me to teach it to her, so hopefully I'll get a chance to do that. But I haven't played it a ton of times. I think I've played it 3 times now, and I really do love it, and always ready to play it. Next one was another new game to me. It's an older game from, when is it, 2019, Sam Kordonsky, Tasty Minstrel Games. He's had a lot of newer games coming out, Rurik, and let's see, what was the most recent one? Resurgence, and then he's had a few other ones. Wrong one. And so this is an older one of his, and it's a little bit harder to find sometimes now because TMG went out of business, but I really enjoyed this, just my first play. And a friend taught me. He brought his copy over actually, and so I picked up a copy at Strategicon, a used copy, and really enjoyed it. So you got this dice placement, and you got these tiles that you're putting out. So again, I enjoy the tile laying games, and you're trying to put certain tiles beside each other in your little tableau, but you've got this market that you're choosing them from out here, and that combination of trying to be strategic about when and how you choose them, and then also how you place them, and what you place them beside is going to determine how they score at the end of the game. So I really enjoyed this one. It's kind of a sister game to Pioneer Days, which I also really enjoy. So this one was a lot of fun, and I look forward to playing it again. I think this is one my wife would enjoy, both thematically and just mechanically. And so looking forward to eventually teaching this one to her and giving her a chance to try it as well. I like the art, and yeah, it's just a really fun game that I'm happy to play again, hopefully soon. Next up, another new one to me, and this one is Leaf. It's a newer game. I think it was a 2023 release, and maybe even kind of late in the year, perhaps coming out from Kickstarter. Tim Eisner is the designer, Weird City Games is the publisher, and this is just a beautiful game. I don't have the Kickstarter version. I just picked up a used copy of the retail version, but it has these really cute wooden pieces. And then the big feature of the game, the art is terrific, but the big feature of the game, let's see if I can find a good picture of the leaves. So here you can see the player mat with the leaves. Looks like these might be, yeah, that's a rendered image. Let's see if we can find someone. I should have pulled up my own image. I had, yeah, here we might have some. Yeah, so you got these beautiful leaves, and you're putting them tip to tip, trying to create these, shapes around the table. Looks like here it's just people showing artistic pictures of them and not really showing the gameplay. Here we go. Here's one that shows the gameplay. So you're trying to put the tips touching, and it's just remarkable how these leaves will all fit, like when you put them out there. And it's not the leaf that you play down, it's the ones that it touches that give you your choices to make your actions. And then there's also this tree board that you're moving your squirrels up and getting bonuses as you go. And so depending on which kind of leaves the leaf you play touch, I forget which ones are which, but one color you get to choose an animal card, and one you get to move up the tree, and one you get to put mushrooms down, and one you get to have the mushrooms mature. And it's just a really fun little game. It's a beautiful tile laying game where the tiles are shaped like leaves, and yeah, it's gorgeous. My wife and I both really enjoyed our play of it. We've only played it one time, but just this weekend she said, we need to play Leaf again. And so we need to get that one back to the table. It is gorgeous, and I really liked the gameplay. I would like to try it with more than just the two of us, and I haven't tried the solo version yet. But first impression, I really enjoyed it. Glad we have it in the collection, and looking forward to teaching it to some friends soon. Next up, King Domino Duel. I picked this one up at Strategicon as well. Used copy, got it for like $3 or something. And we both like King Domino. This is a Bruno Cathala Ludovic Maublanc, Blue Orange Games. And this is like King Domino, except you're rolling dice, and it's a roll and write. So then you're filling in your paper. Let's see if we can find a picture of the paper here. Yeah, so you're filling this in and you're rolling the dice, and you're trying to achieve these things, and the first one to achieve them gets special bonuses. And I forget exactly what the end game was. I think there's a couple of ways. When someone can't play, I think is one of the ways. Maybe when all of these are claimed, or when I forget exactly what those end game things were, because we just played it the one time. After we played it, I don't think this is one that will probably get a lot of playing time. My wife just isn't very enthusiastic about roll and writes in general. And I think we would just prefer to play King Domino. But you can see you're based on the rolls of the dice, you're going to try to make these different contiguous patterns of the same style, and then you're going to be scoring them. And it's a little bit like King Domino. You have to get these little circles that are by the shields. You have to get those colored in. When you've got these little marks on there, that's when you color in those circles. And so the regions, these contiguous areas, only score if you've got the colored in circles. So it's got some similar feels to King Domino. But yeah, I think for us, it probably is one we'll pass on and give away or trade or something like that, just because we enjoyed our play of it, but I don't think we would come back to it very often. We would probably just play King Domino if we're going to play it. So, but yeah, a good game. And if you like roll and writes, I think, and especially if you like King Domino and you like roll and writes, probably one you might enjoy trying. Next up is Inheritors, and I've played this one a few times, but hadn't played it in quite a while. And a friend of mine came over and we played again. He actually is the one that taught me the game. I think, oh no, actually the most recent time I played it, my wife and I played with another couple, so we had a 4-player game. It was the first time I played with 4 players. And it's a really interesting game. You've got this tableau of cards out here, a general kind of market of cards, I guess would be a better way to say it. But you've got these different kinds of objectives, and you also have these different power cards, and you can take them at different times. But in your own tableau, you're trying to build up sequences in the cards. And so you've got these cards in your hand, and you're trying to build up 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and 1 of each color suit. And you can take on these power cards to give you different advantages over time. It's just a really interesting game. There's, as you can see in this one, there's different kinds of cards. They aren't all just number cards. And so there are some interesting decisions to make, and the timing of when you try to accomplish these objectives. And again, there's when you take cards from this market, there are certain cards that allow you to do that. And when you do that, you can discard 1 card and then take everything else that matches it in one way, number or color. And so you take the whole row. Like if I played a yellow 2 over here, I could take this row. If I played a green card over here, I could take this whole row. If I played a 3 over here, I could take this whole row because I've got that 3 on the top. So it's just an interesting take on kind of card collecting, but with objectives that are a little bit different than normal, and trying to get some patterns out there and a little bit of a race for those objectives. So Inheritors is a nice little game. I enjoyed, and I was glad I had a chance to finally play it with 4 players. Next up in February, we always have Groundhog Day. And so on Groundhog Day, actually, my wife and I watched the movie and we played the game. So this is a fun game. It's a cooperative game. We really do enjoy it. It's very simple, but you're basically trying to relive the perfect day without speaking and with the timer running. We always use the digital timer because it's got the polka song, the polka music from the movie. You're trying to put them in sequential order. But then there's points values. So like the gray and the blue ones aren't worth very many, and then the orange ones are worth more, and then the yellow ones are worth more, and the red ones are the ones you're trying to get in your bottom row because they're the experiences of the perfect day. So you want to try to get them in sequential order without speaking, and you can just each play 1 card at a time. And so you're kind of thinking, well, should I play the next card? I'm skipping 3 or 4 numbers here, but we want to get them in order, and they want to be low cards first because you add up the hearts that are at the bottom, and that's your score. And then the next round you have to have a higher score to go on. And so that's part of the trick, is you want to keep getting increasing scores, but you don't want to get them increasing too rapidly. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep making them increase. And you can't get these red cards. You only start with a few in the deck, and then you can't get the other red cards in until you play some of these yellow cards that allow you to bring out the rest of the red cards. So there's this real kind of push your luck, and then you have to then at some point get all red cards in a row. And you can only talk between rounds. You can't talk while you're playing. So, and you can't talk once you've dished out the cards. So you got to talk about, okay, this round I think we can do it. Let's go for it. And then you deal out the cards, and then you try to play in that short period of time. I think it's like a minute or whatever, 30 seconds or a minute, and you got to get those cards played down in sequential ascending order without talking, and make sure that the hearts add up to a greater score than the previous round. So a lot of fun for us. We really enjoyed Groundhog Day, the movie. We enjoyed the game, and it was a lot of fun to play that one again. Another new to me game, and so I did back this one, but I hadn't had a chance to play it until recently, the Granja Deluxe version. And this is a board and dice game, and the deluxe version is beautiful. Triple layered boards and all these nice wooden pieces. And it's a really nice game. I had not played it, and we played it with one of the expansions built in. I think it was the building expansion. I think I'd like to go back and just play the original once, and just to kind of absorb the rules a little bit better. But every round you're choosing the dice, and we had also a different expansion where each person kind of had an asymmetric power, and I forget what that expansion was called, but so each one of us had kind of a special ability that we could capitalize on. And so, yeah, really enjoyed the game, but I just played the once, and so I would like to go back, like I said, maybe play without the expansions and absorb the rule set just a little bit better. And yeah, definitely try it again. I think also this might be one that my wife would enjoy. And it was maybe a little longer than she typically likes, but I don't know. We'll see. I think she would love the art and like the theme, so I want to try that one again. But yeah, I was glad finally to get that played after having had it sit on my shelf for so long. And it is a beautiful rendition, and I really did enjoy the game. All right, next up, Empire's End. Empire's End is a game that I do not own, a John DeClaire game that was published by Brotherwise Games. I love the art, and I almost backed it when it was on Kickstarter or GameFound, I forget which one. And it is basically, you've got this this area, this community, I forget what you would call it. It's got all these roads and farms, and it's basically destroying itself over time. So these fires and battles come up, and you're following along this track to see every round what's going to happen. So you can kind of see what's going to be coming in the next rounds, but things bad are going to happen every time. And a card comes out and said, okay, now this one, like maybe this card right here is the one that's going to get destroyed. And so you're kind of bidding on not taking the tile that's going to make you flip that over and show that it's destroyed. But every time you bid, you're bidding with your resources. And so as you give your resources away, you're also losing the opportunity to build back the things in the future. But if you can it's a little bit like No Thanks that way, where you're putting out your tokens, and then if you can push it long enough and you get a lot of tokens out there, then you can maybe take that tile. And sometimes there's a little bit of bluffing, because sometimes those tiles, it's going to burn your city, but then it's going to give you an advantage that maybe is actually a little bit good for you. And you can see it's just a beautiful production. And so sometimes you might be bluffing, like, oh, I don't want this one. You're putting tokens out there just to see how long it can go, and then hopefully you'll actually get it because the card's actually going to benefit you maybe more than everybody else realizes. And so it was a really enjoyable game. Yeah, I don't know that my wife would enjoy this one. She likes building things. I don't know that she would enjoy the destroying aspect of this one. She would, I'm sure, be willing to play it, and it is beautiful. The art by Kwanchai Mori is terrific, and the gameplay was really nice. I did enjoy it. But I don't know that it would necessarily be one I'd go out of my way to purchase, but I would definitely be happy to play it anytime. I really did enjoy the game. Next up, Dune Imperium Uprising. And so this was in February. We've also played it already a couple times in March, and this is one of my favorite games. And actually, it's starting to become one of my wife's favorite games, surprisingly. I thought it might be a little too heavy, a little too long for her to really get into it. But she liked the Dune movies, and she really liked the game. We played it just recently in March, actually. And we played it, and the next day she said, hey, can we play Dune again? And it just about floored me. I had no idea she would want to play it right that next day back to back. But it's a deep enough game that it benefits from repeated plays. And that's kind of what she said. She said, I want to play it again so I don't forget how to play it. And it's a deck building game. So let's see if we can get some other pictures. The Uprising version is what we played. And these are someone's painted up their worms. We did not have the painted version. We just have the regular gray version. And it looks like here someone's got like a 3D printed stone wall so a lot of people are going to bling this game out. So yeah, it looks like a lot of people have pictures of their blinged out versions here. But the Uprising game is a lot like Dune Imperium if you played that, but it has worms built in as part of the combat system, and it's also got spies as part of the worker placement system. And it's a deck building game, so you start off with everybody has the same deck, but you can trash cards and you can buy cards into your deck. Every person has an asymmetric player power, and so you're using that advantage hopefully as often as you can. And so we both tried 2-player characters the first day and then switched and played 2 different ones the next day. And I do have the deluxe version of regular Dune, so we used all the deluxe version pieces instead of just the cubes. We've got the actual little army men that go out here. But it's just a beautiful game. Some people don't like the art of it or the look of it. I think it's a beautiful game, especially with the deluxe pieces. But I love it. Every time I play it, I think I like it more. And I really want to try Uprising with the expansions. I've played the original Dune Imperium with both Immortal and with the Rise of Ix, and I played with it individually and all of it. And so I'm excited now to try Dune Uprising with those expansions as well. It continues to just rise up the charts for me as, one of my favorite games of all time. Every time I play it, like I say, I just enjoy it more and more. So I think it's going to continue to just be near the top of my all-time favorites. And I think I would always probably choose to use the Uprising game. I'm curious about possibly trying to Frankenstein with some of the cards from the original into that, but I haven't really taken the time to get to know the cards well enough to be ready to do that and try to keep it reasonably balanced. Next up is Dominion, and I have a lot of Dominion expansions. Here's just the box of the base game. Actually, this most recent time I played it on Steam. I've had it on Steam for a while, but I was recently sent a code from a company. They saw my solo gameplay video and just wanted to thank me for putting that video up. It's actually, I think, my most watched video that I have on my channel. And so, yeah, I'm happy that I put that up and some people have benefited from watching that solo version. I found a French video that I tried to decipher and figure it out and then made some slight tweaks to it and then just showed that solo version, which I really enjoy. It doesn't necessarily always work with all the expansions, but it works pretty well with the base game and some of the simpler expansions. But this month, as I said, this company reached out and said, "Hey, we appreciate that you've put this video up. We just want to give you a code for your Steam account that you can get all the expansions added on." So I played it in Steam form recently. It looks like most of these pictures aren't too exciting, but probably a lot of you have played Dominion. It is the classic deck builder game, and there are just hundreds and hundreds of cards, I think. Well, maybe not hundreds, but there are at least 100 different cards. There's probably 15 expansions, and everyone has, 20 or so. So, yeah, hundreds, I guess, of different cards to choose from to make up exactly the kind of game you want. You can make it really aggressive. You can make it not aggressive. You can make it really wealth-driven with the prosperity. And I haven't even tried some of the newer expansions. But I still love Dominion. It was really one of the games that got me into the hobby full-fledged, where I just really realized how much I was enjoying playing board games. And Dominion was one of the first ones that kind of drew me in really hardcore. And so still loving that. Next up, Concordia. I'm not going to talk about it yet because you're going to see it later in the list. Castles of Burgundy. I have the special edition back here, although this last month I actually just played on BGA. But you can see I've played it a lot. I've played the special version, I've played the older versions, I've played it on Steam, I've played it on BGA, and I just love this Steffenfeld classic. I love the dice placement, the timing of filling in your boards, your duchy boards, and I haven't even scratched the surface of all of the things you can learn about this game. I'm an average player, but I can usually compete, but I seldom win. And so, but it's just, I love the beautiful version that Awaken Realms put out recently. Boy, a lot of kind of boring pictures here on the bottom. We'll see if we see anything better. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Even though it was just on BGA this time, it maintains as one of my favorite. There's a picture of Steffenfeld. And I tend to enjoy Steffenfeld games anyway. But yeah, Castles of Burgundy is a classic. I do love it. One of my top games as well. Always happy to play it in any form, physical form, digital form, doesn't matter. The Castles of Burgundy is terrific. And if you have the special version of it, then that makes it even better. I just recorded it under this one because I played it on BGA this time. Next up is Barrage, and I just played this one on BGA, so I haven't ranked it yet because sometimes I feel comfortable doing that and sometimes I don't. This one I felt like I didn't ever quite get it, and I think I do need to get the physical version of the table. It's complex enough. I didn't feel like I really got a great handle on it. I would say my first impression is probably like a 7.5. I didn't love it, but there's just so much going on. I feel like I was missing some things trying to play it on BGA. I like the idea of it. I mean, the theme is just okay for me, but I like the competition for space and the overlapping routes and trying to, cut in and steal the water supply. And although I'm not usually into games that are super aggressive, and this one can be very cutthroat, I liked the idea of the worker placement. There are just several rules, though, that I was just not figuring out on BGA. It seemed like sometimes when I felt like I should have been able to place a construction out here, it wasn't letting me do it. So I'm sure there are some rules I just didn't quite pick up on. So both because I only played it digitally and because I also still don't think I quite understand all the rules, I don't feel quite comfortable yet to rank it, or to rate it. I would definitely like to play it again. I know one of my good gaming buddies, it's one of his top games of all time. I don't ever really see it becoming that for me, maybe. But yeah, I definitely need to play that one again. Next up, Barren Park. And Barren Park I own, and own the Bad News Bears expansion, and I played this one a bunch of times through the years. And I've got some of them ranked under the expansion in terms of my playing, and I played with family. I played before I started recording my games on BGG as well. And this is a polyomino game where you're choosing these tiles and building out your bear park. But this most recent time I did play on BGA, and so I didn't enjoy it as much on BGA as I do in real life. And it's interesting on BGA. Sometimes I enjoy it more. Sometimes it's the same. This is one where I had fun on BJ. It was fine, but I definitely, if I could choose, I would definitely play it in the actual physical form. So I would never turn down a game either way, because I do like Barren Park and I do like polyomino games, and it's a pretty easy one to teach as well. There's a few more things going on like a King Domino kind of a deal, but it's still reasonably simple. And I've taught it to my nephews a couple years back at a Thanksgiving when we were together. And yeah, they all picked up on it right away and enjoyed it quite a bit. So I was glad to get that one back to the table. It had been quite a while since we played that one. Or actually, not to the table literally, but next up, Azul Queen's Garden. And this was the second time I played it in physical form. A friend owns it. We played at his house. I played a 4-player game the first time, and this last time played a 3-player game. When I played the first time, the 4-player game, I could just never quite... I understood the rules, but I just could never quite piece together why we were doing what we were doing. The theme didn't really help me understand the gameplay, and I never really connected it. I guess maybe I'm more of a theme player than I recognized. And so it was fine. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. It seemed like it took an awful long time when we played with 4. So it was fine. When we played with 3 this most recent time, I liked it better. And maybe I just was starting to get the rhythm of how you play and how you strategize. It was fine. Yeah, I don't ever think I would ask to play it, but I wouldn't ever turn down an opportunity to play it. But I'm kind of that way with regular Azul too. I know a lot of people just love Azul. I've played Azul, I don't know, 20 times, but I would never ask to play it, but I would never turn down a chance to play it. So yeah, it's a fine game. But I like regular Azul better than this one. But yeah, both are just okay for me. I know a lot of people love it, so don't take my word for it. That's just my own personal preference. All right, Amrits Are the Golden Temple. This is another new one, and I played it with a friend of mine, and then he decided he was going to sell it, so I actually bought it from him because I really loved it. David Haras Pinot is the designer. Ludonova is the developer, and it looks like a Kickstarter game. It's got these great meeples, these big elephant meeples and big wooden chunky pieces, and then the temple pieces, and yeah, and it's got a really cool Mancala and rondelle, kind of the elephants going around in a rondelle, and these people are moving Mancala style around, and you're trying to align them and get your people to line up with the same color people. The last person you lay down in your Mancala strategy, if I had laid down this yellow person here, I could activate any of these 3, and then I could also get this yellow bonus action. And if my elephant was right here, I could also take a bonus action with that elephant. And so it's a really interesting timing of how you're moving things around. And then you have this double layered player board. And so in this player board, you're going up on these tracks and trying to gain advantages on these tracks, which is really fun. And you're also putting in tiles down here that give you more storage for money and for resources, and also down here for in-game scoring. Just a lot of really cool things that seem to, for me at least, I thought they just kind of meshed together well. And so I just played it the once, and there were a few little fiddly rules that I would need to read back over the rule book myself, I think, before I'm ready to play it again and teach it. But my wife was really impressed by the way it looks. It's just a gorgeous game, and so she's excited to try it with me. And she likes 5 Tribes, and this is definitely like a 5 Tribes on steroids because of the much more complex game. But she likes that Mancala system from 5 Tribes, so I think she would really like it. And she likes rondelle games too, so I'm really looking forward to teaching this one to her. My first impression is really high for this one. I really liked it, and I would love to play it some more. Also, another recent release, I think it was a 2023 release. Yeah, and of all the games from 2023 that I played, it's pretty high up there. I hate to kind of rank them because so many of the games I only play once. So it's kind of hard to say, this one's better than that one for sure. But after one play, my first impression, this was very solid. And I could see it even rising potentially in my rankings because of how much I liked it. And with more plays. I think that's possible. Played another game of Agricola. I've played this one in physical form, and I've played it on digital form multiple times. Played it on BGA this most recent time. And this is another game where I understand the rules, but there are just so many cards and so many interactions. And I think because I play it like once a year, I'm never going to get good at this game. And I always just feel like I'm just taking turns, and I can't quite get a great idea about what would be a good turn. And so, yeah, I've just never really appreciated this game. I think to appreciate it best, you probably need to play it a lot so that you can figure out what all these different cards do, and which cards are best in which scenarios and when you need to time certain things out. And I've played it maybe 4 or 5 times in my life and over like a 12-year period. And so the first time I played it, it was a physical game. And then I played it another time with the physical version. And then since then, I've just played it on BGA. And it's one of those games, again, if someone says, hey, will you play this? Yeah, happy to play it. But I would never ask to play this one either. I know some people love it. It's one of their favorite games of all time. And maybe if I was better at it, maybe if I played it more frequently and could really get the synchronism of how you should play things and the timing of how you should play things, maybe I would enjoy it more. And for people who love it, terrific. For me, it's just not really a game for me. At least as a few plays that I've had so far. All right, Garden Geckos. This is one that's not actually out yet. It'll be coming to Kickstarter soon, so I'll be putting together a video soon. Played it a couple times in February, played it again since in March. And Garden Geckos is just a beautiful little game. It's a tile-laying game again, but it's got some really interesting mechanisms where you're putting out these tiles and then laying a little bit Concordia, or not, Cascadia style, where you're laying tiles down and you're also laying these meeples down. And there are these different animals, bugs, there's worms and crickets and grasshoppers and ladybugs, and you're playing these bugs down, or you're actually gaining these bugs as you put your lizards down. So when one tile gets completely surrounded, whoever has the most of their lizards feeding into that tile that got surrounded gets to take a wooden meeple of the bug. And then there's also these objectives that you're trying to reach. So some of the objectives are bug-based and some are terrain-based. When you lay a tile down, you have to put the tiles with touching terrain that's the same, so like stone to stone or water to water. So here's a green to green. So not all of them have to match, but when you lay it down, one side has to match. So here's green to green with a lizard crossing over those 2 matching ones, and here's blue to blue with a lizard crossing over those 2 matching ones. So once I've had a chance to play it a few more times, I've played it 3 or 4 times now, but only with 2 players. And so I'd like to play it with more. And see what it feels like with 3 players, 4 players. I think it goes up to 6 if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, yeah, 6 players. And so I'd like to play it with more player count before I make my video. And I think the Kickstarter will come out right around the 1st of April. So keep your eye out for it. And hopefully by the end of March, I'll be able to have played it with enough different player counts that I can put together my review video. Probably have kind of a simulated mini playthrough, partial playthrough, and then maybe a review of it as well. Might be more of a preview since it'll just be coming to Kickstarter and is a prototype. But yeah, as a prototype, it's beautiful. The components are amazing. And so, yeah, very impressed with this game. It's deceivingly strategic. Like there's a lot of thinking about, and there's a couple different ways to play with an advanced scoring if you'd like. We tried the advanced scoring this last time we played over the weekend. So really nice one. Garden Geckos by James Staley. 10 Robot Games is the publisher. All right, we're going to skip over Concordia again because it's the most played game actually, since there's 1 here and 2 here and 2 here. I'll explain more later. But Istanbul is the next one up. And we hadn't played this one in quite a while. Played it physical form and also played it on digital form in the month of February. And it's a really fun game. I hadn't played it in a long time. So played it 4 times in February. I think 2 times physically and 2 times on BGA. Or maybe it was Steam. I forget which one. I have played it. I don't forget if it's on BGA or if it's on Steam. But you have this board that's out. Let's see if we can get a good picture here. So here's the board. It's not a great picture of it there. Let's see if we can get a better one. Yeah, here we go. And you've got these workers, and when you move your workers, there's a stack of little tiles that are your workers. And if I wanted to go here, you can move, I think, if I remember right, it's 2 places. So you can go 1, 2, but you have to leave a worker as you go. And so you're going to have to like retrace your steps and then come back and pick those workers up. Or you have to go to the fountain and recall them all, which kind of loses a turn. But each one of these tiles has a different function. Sometimes you're buying goods, sometimes you're selling goods, sometimes you're buying special abilities, sometimes you're gaining gems, sometimes you're expanding your wheelbarrow, which is down here. And this wheelbarrow is where you track your goods. So you've got rings, and you got fruit, and you've got cloth, and I forget what all the different things are, spices. And so as you put these little strips in, the strips are somewhere on this board, I imagine. Here they are. You put the strips in here to make your wheelbarrow more so you can hold more items, and you go and you sell those items, and then you make money so you can get the gems, or you trade the items for gems. And it's the first one that gets their gems across the top here. I think for a 2-player game, it's first to 5, and then for a regular, it's the first to 6. And there's a cousin worker that you can, if you run across the cousin of another player, you can send them to jail. And your own cousin worker, you can send them out, and they can just go anywhere. And then you got this governor tile and a sheriff tile, I think, or something, a mayor, I forget what they're called. And they have different advantages. If you go to a tile where someone else is already there, then you have to pay them. So some really interesting movement and kind of resource management, that you get some cards if you go to this, I forget the name of the tile that you go to. And then you can rearrange these tiles in different ways. There's some suggested arrangements in the rules, but you can also just rearrange them randomly if you want. And so, a really fun game. I still really love Istanbul. Glad I got it back to the table. And then I was having so much fun with it. I'm pretty sure it was on Steam. Let me just double check here. Let's see some of my more recent logged plays here, if it's going to come up. Maybe refresh that. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Steam. So, all right. And now the most played game. It's kind of spread out over several places here. So you can see Concordia here. You can see Concordia Solitaria here. And then you can see Concordia Salsa here. So I played it actually 5 times. So I played the original Concordia with a friend of mine, and then played Solitaire version twice. And then my friend came back, and then we played the Salsa version, and then I played Solitaire with Salsa. And so Concordia is still one of my favorite games. I really do enjoy it. A lot of people think it's boring. I just really love it. You're building out around this track. You're moving your workers. You're moving your boats. You're trying to build houses. And every board, I have a lot of different board expansions that give different feel. Some of them are bigger. Some of them are smaller. And so each one feels a little bit different. If you play with the salsa version, which is what I'm trying to get a good picture of here. If you play with the salsa version, you've got these salt houses that you can, salt's basically like a wild, so it gives you a little more flexibility. And I really love the card play where as you have this deck of cards, and each card has a different function, and you can play them in any order you want, but once they're played, they're down. And one of the cards allows you to pull back all of your other cards. And the longer you wait to do that, the more money you get when you pull them back. So if you have 8 cards that you've played and you pull them back, you're going to get 8 coins. But sometimes you need to pull them back sooner. And with the salsa version, you have the wild salt, but you also have this forum expansion with these other kind of one-time or continuous actions that you can take. And it's a race. You're trying to see who can either get all their houses put out there, or who can buy all those cards, because you're buying more cards into your hand with the senator card. Just a lovely game. I still love it. My wife still loves it. Taught it to my friend, and then he wanted to come back and play it just a few days later. And he's played a ton of games, but he hadn't played Concordia. And I think he really enjoyed it as well. And I enjoy playing it on Steam, but it is one that it's quicker to play on Steam, so I'm always happy to do that. But I still just love getting the physical board game out and playing that as well. And so there were the 33 game plays, 25 different games, since Concordia is showing up in 3 different ways here because I played kind of 3 different versions of it. So at the end of these videos, I always like to go back and talk about, well, what were my favorites specifically? What was my favorite game that was back to the table, and what was my favorite game that was new to me? And wow, this month had some incredible games. All of these games, and even the ones that I can't show you here, I just squeezed a few into the frame. All of these games were terrific, and I enjoyed all of them in some different ways. I would have to say probably my favorite new to me game, I really enjoyed Garden Geckos. It might have been the biggest surprise. I thought it would be a lot simpler than it is, but there's a lot to think about, some really interesting decisions to make. Same with Leaf. It was a really interesting game. I knew it would be beautiful, but it actually surprised me how much there was to think about, and the interesting way that when you play the Leaf, it's not the Leaf you play, but it's the ones they touch. And yeah, there was some really interesting things there that I enjoyed. Botswana was just lovely. Can't wait to play with the grandkids. But I think my favorite new to me game, and again, Old West Impresario, La Granja, like there were just so many great ones. But I think Amritsar was probably my favorite new to me game. I just played it the one time, but really excited to play it again. In terms of my favorite back to the table, that one might be even harder because Baron Park is so much fun. Istanbul was so great. Planet Unknown is one of my favorites. Concordia is one of my favorites. On Mars, Dune. And I think I would have to say, boy, it's really tough. It's kind of between these two, I think, but I think I'm going to have to go with Dune. And maybe in part because we've also played it again in March and went and see the movie. So maybe there's a little bit of that too that's just making it really fond memories of playing that, even though it was in February, the most recent time that we've talked or that I've been talking about. But yeah, it's just fabulous game, and although I can't wait to find the time to teach my wife On Mars because she's excited about it. We'll see if she ends up actually liking her, if it's a little too heavy and long of a game for her, but really excited to teach that one as well. So lots of terrific games, great old ones getting back to the table, great new ones as well. So of the games that I played, if you've played any of them, let me know what you think about them down in the comments below. A lot of terrific games in my opinion. So let me know what you think. And then also, what were your favorite games from the month of February that you were able to play? I'd love to hear about that. Leave those ideas down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, that would be terrific. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy, Indiana, signing off.